Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. Welcome to the Tuesday night edition of the program. We are live, we are national, happy to be here with you. The phone number, if you want to join me, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdes. And I don't know where to start. El Trompito in New York City today, making all sorts of traffic. He caused so much traffic that even the president of France, who was on his way to the UN, couldn't quite make it. They stopped him in traffic. He gets out to argue with the police. The president of France, right, Emmanuel Macron, he gets out. This is all on video. It was very funny. He gets out of the car. You've probably seen it, but if you haven't, I'll describe it to you. He gets out and he's like, hello, we make it the French fries. I need to get to the UN. And they're like, yeah, sorry. And he's like, I am the president of France. And they're like, nah, bro, you got to stay right there. And he's like, but I have to get to the UN. They're like, yeah, right now we're holding up traffic because the president of the United States is coming through this street. And so he's like, oh, no, don't worry. I will call him. So he calls Trump on the phone, and Trump, I'm presuming, answers, or somebody, the military aide to the president perhaps answers the phone. And he's giving his plight. I'm here. I'm stuck. I got to get to the UN. What's going on? And all you hear is the one side of the conversation of Macron. But it seemingly looks like Trump or whomever's on the phone says, yeah, so why don't you just walk? It's probably faster. And him and his entourage, they start walking towards the UN because they couldn't get through traffic. It was funny to me. I guess that's me being a partisan, right? Because if it was the shoe on the other foot, right? Let's say it was the president of France, but it was Marine Le Pen, and she's an ally, and it was President Obama that she called, and he was like, blah, blah, blah. I would probably say something like, it was really uncouth of President Obama to not, show some courtesy, at least be a little bit nicer rather than saying, hey, look, walk to the UN. I think that was a little bit crass. That's likely what I would have said had it been Obama. Trump does it, and I go, that's pretty funny. And I still think it's pretty funny. So there's truth in bias, and I definitely have bias. But speaking of bias, there was something else I wanted to get into, but I'm going to get into that stuff a little later. We're going to delve into a couple of topics tonight. We're going to talk about the continued effect of Charlie Kirk, of course, that is not going anywhere. I also want to talk about what was the other thing I want to talk about here? Oh, yeah, here it is. The big UN speech, right? Trump torches the UN today, absolutely roasting them, saying that, they're good for nothing, pretty much. Elevator breaking down, teleprompter not working. I haven't gotten a thing from them, and we've done all sorts of peace. Trump definitely given a big-time, bigly, over-the-top speech. Good for him. I love it. And we're going to get some analysis and reaction to that from Ambassador Carla Sands, former ambassador to Denmark and Greenland, chair of the Foreign Policy Initiative at the America First Policy Institute. That's a little bit later on. Plus, we're going to talk about education. I want to get into a pretty good conversation on education. That's one of my favorite things to talk about. And we're still dealing with it, right? The U.S. Department of Education has done a lot of good things, including announced their own demise, hopefully, should that get approved down the road with Congress. And yet there's still plenty of interference being run by the teachers union and Randi Weingarten. She's got a new book, by the way. It's called Why Do Fascists Fear Teachers? We'll talk about that in a little bit. And of course, we're scheduled to speak with Vince Everett Ellison. He's always a powerful voice. But I wanted to share with you an email that was sent to me by our producers. And I thought this was interesting because Well, basically because I thought it was inaccurate. Oh, where did it go? Here it is. It is from someone by the name of Tex Sun, S-U-N. And listen to this. Mr. Valdes, I'm an independent. But regardless, I hear people open their own mouths and say what comes out of them, rather than some people who do either do not know all the facts or know and are afraid to state them. In the first place, I by no means agree with Mr. Kirk's death and wish his grieving family and kids all the best. That being said, I did send you an email a while back of Kirk's comments, but of course, knowing that you have a right-wing show, I wouldn't describe it as a right-wing show, but I would say it's a conservative show, right of center, but I wouldn't say right-wing. You would never disappoint the MAGA people by stating the actual facts about Kirk. For one, he said the 1964 Civil Rights Act was a mistake. Now, I think we've addressed that, right? I think we spent some time on that last night, the night before. But, okay, no problem. He goes on. He said that this was a mistake. Now, just think about that for a minute. Where would the people of color be today? And even now, some are still being discriminated against in some cases. Again, this is a letter that was sent to me. Also, you said that you admired Martin Luther King. Well, I've actually never said I admired Martin Luther King. I said I embrace his philosophy of the beloved community. I think that is a very critical distinction, right? Because what we know about, I don't know Martin Luther King to say that I admire the guy, but from what I've learned from him, I've learned that his doctrine of the beloved community was one that I liked, right? It's something that I think makes a lot of sense. It embodies and embraces the idea of loving your neighbor. And I think that is a good way to live your life. I also think it's a good idea to take heed to what he talked about in the I Have a Dream speech, right? Talking about the importance of appreciating people based on the content of their character, not the color of their skin, right? But anyway, the point I'm saying here, this person says that, no, you embrace Dr. Martin Luther King, but Charlie Kirk says he's a bad person. Well, we're about to have a black preacher on, and he says Martin Luther King was a bad person too. Matter of fact, the FBI said a lot of bad things about Martin Luther King. About, I think the day that he was assassinated, he was leaving like his mistress's place, right? He was involved in a lot of illicit stuff that I'm not here to judge him, right? Who knows what I would do if I were a rock star, right? Lots of rock stars are into sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I'm just saying that those are the facts, right? That's not something that we've made up. So anyway, long story short here, this guy goes on to talk about a bunch of things I've already talked about on the radio, and it makes me think, A, am I wasting my time talking to these people, or addressing the notes that they send me or the comments that they leave me, or B, do I have to double down and say the same things I've already said again? I don't know the answer, but we're going to figure it out as we move forward, because we need to make sure that the message gets out, right? That's the most important thing. The second most important thing, making sure we're safe, right? We don't want to invite violence. We don't want to invite problems in any part of our life, right? Whether it's our personal safety, even digital safety, right? People get doxxed out there. All sorts of things are happening. Matter of fact, we talked 2 weeks ago about this, the threat that compromised about 4 million people from the data breach at the credit reporting agency. This is a big data breach. And people want peace of mind in a situation like that. For me, thanks to my friends at WebRoot Total Protection, they gave me this option to choose a plan, and I chose the WebRoot Total Protection. It's an all-in-one device and privacy and identity protection service. Keeps you safe in the event that your personal data is ever compromised. WebRoot Total Protection allows identity protection for up to 10 different identities, so that's literally everybody in your family, and up to $1 million in fraud expense reimbursement. So you also get the 24/7 U.S.-based customer service and an elder fraud hotline. And in this day and age, when you get these weird calls from all over the place, you never know who's out to get you. You really don't. This package, the one I've got, the WebRoot Total Protection package, you also get identity monitoring and dark web monitoring. They also will throw in with the same package antivirus protection, VPN, and cloud backup. Again, that's not just for you, that's for your whole family. WebRoot also allows my family, at least, and me, to live a better digital life, at least a safer one, right? Because with these continued data breaches and all sorts of crazy stuff that happens, you never really know. And you got to watch your back. If you guys want to get in on this, I encourage you to do it. 50% off WebRoot Total Protection or the WebRoot Essentials. So when you go to webroot.com/rich, I'll give you the website again, webroot, webroot.com/rich, webroot.com/rich. Get 50% off of the WebRoot Total Protection Package or WebRoot Essentials when you go to webroot.com/rich.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
You know what? One of the things I do want to point out that's not been laid out that honestly hurts my heart is when I saw the no votes, there were only 2 Caucasians. For the most part, the only people that voted no were people of color, because the rhetoric that Charlie Kirk continuously put out there was rhetoric that specifically targeted people of color. And so it is unfortunate that even our colleagues could not see how harmful his rhetoric was specifically to us. And I can tell you that a month prior to him passing away, he had actually gotten out on his podcast. I wasn't aware of this at the time, but he got out there and he was talking negatively about me directly. So if there was any way that I was going to honor somebody who decided that they were just going to negatively talk about me and proclaim that I was somehow involved in the great white replacement, yeah, I'm not honoring that kind of stuff, especially as a civil rights attorney and understanding how I got to Congress, knowing that there were people that died, people that were willing to die, that worked to make sure that voices like mine could exist in this place.
That's Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She was on CNN on Sunday reacting to the Charlie Kirk Memorial. And I wanted to play this yesterday, and I said to the producer, Mr. Good, nope, we're not doing that. I'm saving it for Vince Everett Ellison because I wanted to get his reaction to that. Vince Everett Ellison is a powerful voice. You've heard him on this program before. He's the host of the Vince Everett Ellison Show on YouTube. He's also the author of a new book called The End of Tolerance, How Democrats Use the Sin of Tolerance to Destroy America. Vince Everett Ellison, welcome back, sir.
Hey, Rich, how you doing, brother? Good to talk to you again.
Hey, man, brother, I'm doing good. And I saw you on Twitter, doing your thing, paying respects to Charlie at his memorial this weekend. And I wanted to, having felt the energy that was in the room and experienced that I'm going to say that was quite a event, meeting, memorial, homegoing service, however you want to phrase it. It was a lot. I mean, you got Trump in the room, Elon Musk in the room, very powerful people in America and the world in that room with quite frankly the future of the Turning Point movement, and it was just impressive to me. What was your reaction to the event? And firstly, what do you say to Jasmine Crockett?
Well, boo-hoo. I mean, Jasmine Crockett is upset because the mask has been pulled away from her face. There are no more blurred lines here in America. We saw how the left responded to George Floyd, and we see how we're responding to my good friend Charlie Kirk. I knew Charlie Kirk. The people that speak ill of Charlie Kirk, you should ask them one question. Did you know Charlie Kirk? And I knew him. I knew him well. I gave speeches for Turning Point and for Blexit. I saw Charlie last month at the TPUSA convention down in Tampa, and he and I embraced and we hugged, and I have it on my podcast where she said, "Hey man, you had my back when nobody else did." Because Charlie and I we go to war together and we protect one another. And I always had his back. He always had mine. So I knew Charlie Kirk. And the thing they dislike about Charlie is that Charlie told the truth. See, Charlie's like this right here. You and I are brothers in Christ. We're brothers. Okay. Our father is rich. He's rich. He's a trillionaire. Anything you want, he's got it. And you, my brother, I see you standing outside on the side of the street holding a sign begging. And Charlie's the type that's going to grab his brother and say, man, what are you doing? Why are you out here begging when our father is rich? And then you're going to try to give some type of excuse, and Charlie's going to shake you in your collar and say, man, you need to get back in line and stand up straight and be a man and cut this foolishness out. And they don't like that. Charlie Kirk says, if you're an heir of Jesus Christ and you're a child of God, you shouldn't be begging the government for anything. Not DEI, not affirmative action. Stand up and be a man. And these parts on the Democratic Party side don't like that because they're inferior. They need DEI because they believe they're inferior, not because Charlie Kirk believed it. Charlie Kirk was telling them, you're not inferior. You don't need it. They said, yes, we are, and we do need it. And Charlie Kirk said, well, you're not a man, and you're not
Vince,
free. And then they get angry.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett says that he was targeting black people intentionally. What do you say to that?
He was targeting black liberals intentionally, and all liberals. He called them what they were, a pack of lazy, shiftless bums, all of them, who are inferior-minded, who are afraid to stand up and stake their claim in America. Look them in the eye and say, you're a grown man asking me to feed you, and I'm not going to feed you anymore. There's a job out there to be had, working in the fields, being a janitor, mowing lawns. Take it. Walking around with a good back, with a SNAP card, 5 or 6 children out of wedlock, walking around with piercings in your nose and red hair, walking around in a dress, acting like there's something wrong with you. Walking around talking about you inferior. You can't compete in America. Talking about how white supremacy. Well, you know what? If you're talking about white supremacy, that means white supremacy to me is like voodoo. You have to believe before it has any power over you. Because Charlie Kirk will tell you, I am not superior to you. He tells you every day, you can do everything in America that I can do. And they had to look themselves in the mirror and deal with their own wretchedness. Because you had somebody like Charlie Kirk looking you in your face and said, you're as good as I am. The only reason why you're not doing it is because you're a lazy, shiftless bum. It ain't because of the color of your skin. It's because you're lazy, and you're shiftless, and you're a coward. And boy, they can't take that. They couldn't take it. It made them angry. It's like Jesus Christ when he stood up in the temple and he told the people inside of Jerusalem, he said, your problem is not the Romans. Your problem is the Pharisees, the Sadducees, right over there. Those are your problems. You've been sleeping with the enemy. And what did they do? They started to kill him. Charlie Kirk did the same thing. He told the black community, your problem is not the white conservative. Your problem is that white liberal and that black Democrat. That's your enemy right there. And they sought to kill him.
Woo. Folks, we're on with Vince Everett Ellison. He's the host of the Vince Ellison Show on YouTube and the author of the new book, The End of Tolerance, How Democrats Use the Sin of Tolerance to Destroy America. We're coming right back with Vince Everett Ellison. We're going to talk about the future of this movement. Did they awaken a sleeping giant? We're going to talk about that and his book, The End of Tolerance. Don't go anywhere. Don't miss it. I'm Rich Valdes, coming back with Vince Everett Ellison.
Look at Rich Valdes. He's now a radio host, and he's a great radio host.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Democracy sustains capitalism. Capitalism thrives in a democracy. And right now we are dealing with, as I called him at my speech on the ellipse, a tyrant. We used to compare the strength of our democracy to communist dictators. That's what we're dealing with right now in Donald Trump. And these titans of industry are not speaking up. And perhaps it is because his threats and the way he has used the weight of the federal government to take out vengeance on his critics is something that they fear, and I get that. I understand why they do. We've seen the demonstration of it.
That, of course, is Vice President Kamala Harris on MSNBC yesterday, taking to the media to try and promote her book, as well as take cheap shots at President Trump, who wiped the floor with her in the last election, and trying to somehow revive this idea that Trump is a communist dictator. I've got news for Vice President Harris and anybody else who thinks this. He won the popular vote. Does that mean most Americans favor a communist dictator tyrant? Vince Everett Ellison is our guest. He's got this amazing book that I recommend you get not one, but 2 copies of, one for yourself and one to give away. The name of the book, the title, I should say, The End of Tolerance, How Democrats Use the Sin of Tolerance to Destroy America. Vince Everett Ellison, what say you about Vice President Kamala Harris?
Oh, man, she's just trying to make some money off that book. She's done. She was a buffoon. She lied, talked about she was black, caught up with her. She couldn't articulate one national policy. She's Willie Brown's side piece. She's basically a streetwalker in San Francisco. So she matched well with the Democrat Party. And the American people saw through her, and they rejected her, as they're going to keep rejecting the Democratic Party from now on. They're done. They are affiliated with murder. They're affiliated with mayhem. They tried to kill Trump twice, so they couldn't get to Trump, so they got the second person, the most powerful person in the conservative movement, and that was Charlie Kirk. Now America knows exactly who they are, and all of these people, the ones on the left, they hated Charlie Kirk. The ones on the right that knew Charlie Kirk loved him. But then there were those in the middle that kind of heard about Charlie and didn't know about him and didn't care about him one way or the other. And when he got assassinated, everybody said, who was this young man, Charlie Kirk? And they started exploring him. And they said, Lord have mercy. They took away a good man. Wasn't anything wrong with this young man. He wasn't a racist. He wasn't a misogynist. He was married. He was articulate. He was smart. He was a Christian. Everywhere he went, he talked about Christ, telling people to turn their lives over to Christ, telling young men to get married, talking to the lost boys of America. You're supposed to get married, have children, have a family, protect your wife, protect the children, provide for them, work for them. This is what God wants you to do. Be a man of God. Love one another, protect one another, forgive one another, have forbearance toward one another, and treat each other the way Jesus Christ would want you to treat each other. And that means I'm going to tell you the truth. God made you a man. That means you are supposed to be a man. Control yourself. Act like a man. Well, I was born this way. Well, you can be born again. That's it. No excuses. Charlie gave you no excuses. And for these girly men that have been caught up their whole lives, most of them were raised by their mamas, that's all they had was excuses. And Charlie didn't give it to them. Anything you had, Charlie Kirk had the answer. He would say, I don't care how you feel. Well, I feel. Nobody cares about how you feel. I care about your actions. We all have feelings. Every day, Rich, me and you go around and we want to hit somebody in the mouth and we restrain ourselves. That's what men do. There's something that you want to say. Well, what do? You find a delicate way to say it. We restrain ourselves. That's what men do. We show deference. We try not to offend. We show manners. We go into a person's home and what do we ask, Rich? What are the rules here? I don't want to offend. Oh, but not the Democrats. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to wear what I want to wear. I'm going to act the way I want to act. And if you don't like it, something wrong with you. Charlie Kirk said, that don't work with me. when you come in my presence, you're going to show me the respect that I show you, or we ain't going to get along. And they don't like that. And so Kamala Harris and all these other ones who tell you that you have to be accepted any way you want to show yourself, people like me, you, and Charlie Kirk said, nah, that don't work with us. You're going to have to stand up as a man, or you're going to be kicked out of this circle of men. We don't have to accept you. There is a ticket to ride in our community, and you better punch yours or you don't get in.
You know, Vince Everett Ellison, I look at, the rhetoric that went into this assassination, the things that were written on these shell casings, this talk of fascism. I hear former Vice President Harris on television yesterday, after the assassination, talking about Donald Trump as a communist dictator, as if she missed the last week or 10 days and how dangerous this whole thing can be. And it leads me to your book, The End of Tolerance. Have we really reached the end of tolerance, Vince?
We have. They've used tolerance as a tool to destroy us. They've always told us to be tolerant and be tolerant and be tolerant. And they made us believe that tolerance was a virtue, but tolerance is not a virtue. Tolerance is actually a sin. Jesus never tolerated sin. This great archbishop by the name of Charles J. Chaput, C-H-A-P-U-T, he says, evil preaches tolerance until it is dominant, and then it tries to silence the good. Evil preaches tolerance until it is dominant, until evil is dominant, and then it tries to silence the good. And the great Miles Monroe, he said, whatever you tolerate, you cannot defeat. See, they taught us to tolerate these things. Another great man says that what one generation tolerates, the other generation will accept and be dominated by. It's a foot in the door technique. The more you tolerate from a child, the worse they get until you put your foot down and say, I ain't having this no more. The Democrats have taken it this far. First they said, you and I are old enough to remember when they started the whole gay marriage debate. Oh, no, we just want to have domestic partnerships. People say, well, just let them have domestic partnerships. That ain't going to be no thing. We said it's going to lead to gay marriage. No, it's not. That's impossible. We gave them domestic partnerships, and next thing you know, they were in the Supreme Court fighting for gay marriage. Now, since they got gay marriage, they want to go into the schools and teach transgenderism to our children. Now they want to try to cut off, they want to castrate little boys and call them little girls. They want to cut off the breast of little girls and call them little boys. We turned around, they had drag queens shaking their behinds in our children's faces in public education. They took abortion from 1 trimester to 2 trimesters, all the way up to the 9th trimester, and now they even have, now they voted against the Born Alive bill. They said if a child survives an abortion, that the doctor cannot render aid. The Democrats voted against it. They take our tolerance, they take it step by step, incrementally, to a point where they've taken the Bible out of the library and put pornography in. And then because we want to take the pornography out of the library, they want to ban books. But when they took the Bible out, we didn't talk about banning books, did we? See, that's how the left has paid us. And now we have to stand up and say our tolerance is over. It's just like your children. When you let them play, and they take it too far, and you say, all right, boy, sit down. You're taking it too far. You don't know how to stop. The Democrats don't have stopping sense. They have taken this country to a point where they're about to destroy it. And Charlie Kirk said the same thing. He and I talked about it. We talked about the Democrats taking this party too far, that the tolerance has to end. You have to say it stops now. It's like the whole movie Wyatt Earp, when Wyatt Earp came into town as a marshal and he walked to those saloons, they raising hell and blowing up stuff and fighting. And Wyatt Earp came in with a gun, shot up in the saloon and said, I'm Wyatt Earp, and it stops now. That's how we got to do it. It stops now. We're taking America back. We're bringing back our values. The Charlie Kirk Memorial told the world who we were, and we're not ashamed of it anymore. We're going to speak the name of Jesus Christ. We're going to bring back our Christian values. We're going to make this a Christian nation. And if they don't like it, we can get down with the get down.
No longer tolerating what's wrong.
No more tolerating it.
The End of Tolerance, How Democrats Use the Sin of Tolerance to Destroy America, by Vince Everett Ellison. Vince, let everybody that's listening know how to keep up with you. I'm sure there's a lot of people going, man, I like this guy. He's got a lot of fire. they want to follow you, where do they go?
Hey, guys, you can watch me on the Vince Everett Ellison Show. It's on YouTube, X, and Rumble. But watch it on YouTube. I have 4 shows come out every week. You can also follow me, VinceELlison.com. That's VinceELlison.com. Look, Rich, we are changing the world. The world is going to, I think the Democrats have hit that high water mark. Mm-hmm. And now with what has happened with the last election and how the world is seeing their reaction to the last election, murder and mayhem and violence, you have the people in the middle that are saying, we don't want to have anything to do with these people anymore. We have given them a clear delineation of what right and wrong is. You can follow the left and have ghettos, prison, crime, death, broken families, dope, or you can follow the right, suburbs, good schools, family, God, law-abiding people. Choose.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Go to any Democrat city, whether it be Detroit, Chicago, L.A., New York, San Francisco, New Orleans, you name it. It is a cesspool. And go to any Republican conservative suburb. You got black, white, Asian, Jew, Gentiles, all living out there together, peace and harmony. Everybody getting along and enjoying each other. Which America do you want? Choose.
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting. President Trump has put that in front of a lot of people, sending the National Guard to a lot of neighborhoods, and everybody there seems to love it. So I think you're onto something. Vince Everett Ellison.
He's showing people that we are law and order and that we believe that every American, even people that didn't vote for him, he's going to protect. That's a good president.
Amen to that. Again, VinceELlison.com is the website. The book is The End of Tolerance, How Democrats Use the Sin of Tolerance to Destroy America. Vince Everett Ellison, I could talk to you for hours, but I got to hit a break here, so I'm going to let you go. But I appreciate you. Godspeed to you. Keep up the amazing work you're doing, and let's do it again soon.
All right, brother. Call me anytime.
You bet. God bless. And amigos, your thoughts, your calls, your reactions to everything going on in America at night, coming up right now.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
Big fan. Your impact is really big. Honored to be here.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. It's Rich Valdes. And the Secret Service foiled a massive plot to cripple New York City and their cellular network as one of the threats facing the UN General Assembly earlier today. This is what we know so far. A massive illegal electronic device network capable of crippling cell towers and jamming 911 calls was discovered. Listen to this.
This morning, the U.S. Secret Service believes it disrupted a plot that could have collapsed the entire telecommunications system in New York City. And law enforcement sources tell ABC News it's believed to be connected to the Chinese government. Officials say several individuals, including at least one with direct access to the president, began receiving threats this spring. In recent weeks, investigators tracked those threats to multiple locations in and around New York, where they said they seized hundreds of servers and more than 100,000 SIM cards. Enough equipment to send 30 million anonymous text messages every minute. Overwhelming communications.
They found empty apartments with servers and server walls capable of making millions and millions of phone calls in and around New York City and the world that could potentially cripple New York City and other parts of the world.
There are no arrests yet. The apartments where the equipment was found were empty. Investigators suspect the alleged plot is the work of a well-organized and well-funded group that law enforcement sources say is believed to be linked to China.
Again, so they believe, that's a report from NBC News, by the way. Investigators believe that this was linked to China. They also think that, well, not they think, they know, they discovered a trove of devices. More than 300 of them were in the same place. You had these SIM servers and 100,000 SIM cards at multiple locations. All of this was within 35 miles of the United Nations. How about that? Wild stuff. And again, the director of the Secret Service saying this is the potential for disruption here to the country's telecommunications network. This can't be overstated. That's Sean Curran, director of the Secret Service. Anybody who doesn't know who Sean Curran is, he is the guy with the sunglasses on that's right behind Trump in the iconic photo with Trump and his ear bleeding and his fist in the air as he's yelling, fight, 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 when he was survived that assassination attempt. But he went on after that to become Secret Service director. And interesting stuff, right? It's great to see that some of the ideas, and I'll give some kudos to Trump because I think not enough reporting is doing that. These threats, how do you uncover these things, right? There's a lot of different investigative tools they use, and they're not going to tell us all of them. But you'd be remiss if you didn't think for a second that one of the agencies that Trump created, Space Force, right? That whole branch of government, these guys, this is what they do up there in space, right? Not only are they, we have NASA for space exploration. Space Force is for the part of the war that's going on up there, satellites and whatnot. So very, very, very good work by the Secret Service, Space Force, everybody else included. I'm glad that this thing didn't go down. And again, we're going to talk about Trump's visit to the UN with Ambassador Carla Sands. She's joining us in the next hour. But I want to go to some calls as soon as we come back, because otherwise I'll go over time here. Calls from Florida, from Jersey, from Idaho. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, to the phones we go. Let's go to Jim Manahawk in New Jersey, listening to WJJF out of Long Island. What's going on, Jim? Quickly.
Hi, how are you this evening?
Wonderful, thank you.
And I thank you for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Listening to Mr. Ellison was amazing.
Quickly, we're going to run out of time. What would you like to say tonight? Thank you.
Mr. Ellison was one of the black men I've been waiting to hear for a long, long time.
All right. Well, he's pretty easy to find. He's all over YouTube, and he's got a book out, and he's got a YouTube channel. He puts out 4 videos a week.
I don't have any of that stuff.
Oh, well, I'm glad we were able to get him to you.
Yeah, he was amazing. What he was saying was so simple and so rational and so easy.
Yeah, no, listen, he has a way of speaking extemporaneously that really just cuts through the noise and really gets to the heart of the matter. Jim in Manahawk in New Jersey, thank you for the call. Shout out to WJJF. I appreciate the call. Eduardo, Tampa, Florida, WENG. Go right ahead.
Yeah, a couple of things, Rich. Thank you for that Secret Service story. Over the weekend, there was a hack at airports in Dallas, UK, and Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Collins Aerospace does the check-ins, the technology. They are a supplier to the Ukraine army. So
interesting stuff.
Interesting party of Russian. And you can ask your guest in the next hour. There was the execution of Palestine in Hamas over there because they were collaborating with Israelis.
Haven't heard of that one yet, but we'll definitely get up to speed on it. The music means I got to go, Eduardo, but thank you for the update as always. Tampa, Florida, in the building, WENG. Eduardo, my friend, thank you, sir. And amigos, we continue the conversation. Ambassador Carla Sands scheduled to be with us, as well as more conversation straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdes.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. Welcome to the Tuesday night edition of the program. We're back for another hour, live and national. Happy to be here. It's an honor, it's a pleasure, it's a blessing. And I want to invite you to call the show, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdes. And my guy, El Trompito Donalds Magnus, the 45th and 47th president of these United States, as I like to call him, Donald J. Trump, El Presidente. He was in New York City today delivering a roast of the United Nations. President Trump really bringing it to them. And interesting, right? To me, it's interesting because I loved... First, let me give you a little background here before I get into that. Many years ago, I was unsure of my opinion on the UN, right? I really was. I was like, I wonder what's going on here. You know, it always seemed to me like an extra layer of government, but they argued that they were making all of this difference and impact globally by, you know, all these non-governmental partnerships and whatnot. And I joined a group called the United Nations Association. And not too long after joining this group, they made me the director of advocacy, or the chairman of the advocacy group representing northern New Jersey. And so I've been to the UN General Assembly Hall, that big, beautiful room that President Trump spoke in today. I've actually been on that podium, and I've met a lot of people. And I quickly learned in the couple of years that I did that, you know, I gave them the benefit of the doubt and trying to see, is it just people trying to do the right thing, and they're like everywhere else. You want to do the right thing, but you're surrounded by leftists, or is it worse? And what I learned was it was worse, right? At least that was my takeaway. The UN, in my opinion, is a clearinghouse to, for lack of better words, to launder money, right? To make payoffs. That's how you make your payoffs, right? I always say the United States dollar is backed by the United States military. And those of us out there in the world, right, that don't have a U.S. military to back up their currency are always looking to make a deal one way or another, right? And this is why you have things today like the BRICS consortium and whatnot, because they want to take out the dollar, because they want to make themselves economically powerful. So I say all of that to say, if you got to make a deal with a country, you say, hey, look, you try what they call diplomacy. Mr. So-and-so, Mr. Ambassador, we think we should make a deal. Let's try this, you know, diplomatically. Sometimes that doesn't work. So you have to go a little further, right? What they call sanctions and whatnot. Eventually you get to a point where it's like, look, do you want this smoke? Because we've got every bomb and gun and jet fighter, everything you can imagine, we've got it. You really want to do this? Or you go, listen, you don't want to go down that road. Why don't we make a deal here? Let's make a deal that's good for everybody. Let's maybe we could give you some foreign aid, right? And for years, that was how we did foreign policy in America. Foreign aid, and, you know, we'll give you some money. Let me recommend who I think you should put in office, you know, that type of thing. Trump's done things incredibly differently, as you could see, using the power of our fantastic Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, pulling the plug on USAID, ending so much of this global money laundering and these payoffs to different people, because ultimately it was ending up in people's pockets, right? It was a cash grab. It was the guy who's running a building as a superintendent somewhere in New York City saying, yeah, no, that plumbing job cost us $15,000. And he gets the receipt from the plumber for $15,000, but really it was only a $10,000 job, and they split the difference, right? The super and the plumber, and these types of kickback schemes have been going on in buildings in New York City since day one, and they've been going on with countries. And just look no further than President Joe Biden and what happened with Ukraine when he was vice president and all that stuff. So all of that, I say that for the reason of saying that President Trump has really reshaped how we do diplomacy. He's really created actual deals, actual real deals where he's like, let us make something valuable, something that people want to be a part of, right? So this is why I don't think it's crazy when he says things like, maybe we'll build something in Gaza, right? I don't think he's being aloof. I don't think he's missing the fact that people are dying. I think it's quite the opposite. I think he actually sees that people tend to kill each other less when they're all doing well. And he sees the potential for that there. Again, potential. It's an idea. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It doesn't mean we're fighting this war for that purpose or anything like that. But it does mean that he puts deals together and he tries to build a coalition of the willing who want to be in on the deal. And it makes all the sense in the world. And that's why we've seen the success that we saw with NATO. That's why we've seen so much success with so many of the negotiations President Trump has been a part of. Now, of course, there's a couple of holdouts, right? Russia and Ukraine and Hamas and stuff like that. And again, he didn't start these fights either. That's important to note, right? He's trying to end something that started when they saw American weakness. But ultimately, this is a big deal because he's been calling for the end of the UN since he got elected. And honestly, if I had to critique President Trump, and you guys know I'm big on President Trump, I would say I wish he would have done more to end the UN and defund the UN in his first term. So he made some comments about that today, and I thought they were great. But I do want to get into that with Ambassador Carla Sands, who's scheduled to join us in just a couple of minutes. And I wanted to remind you that these big meetings in New York City, they don't come just like easy peasy, right? It's not always like that. Sometimes there's major threats, like they discovered this cyber threat today. Not even cyber, it was a telecommunications threat where they had these phones that were able to make hundreds of thousands of calls to jam up 911 and jam up a lot of other critical communications infrastructure networks. And they're tracking it back to China. And a couple of weeks before that, we saw a threat with respect to the credit reporting, right? There was about 4 million users that were affected by this. And this is a big deal, I think, right? This is why I'm grateful to my friends at WebRoot, a sponsor on this program that has provided me with one of the packages that they have. And this package, the one that they call the WebRoot Total Protection Package, I think it's great. If you want to live a better digital life, this is what you want. This is a prime example of why it's important to have a product like WebRoot Total Protection, because it includes antivirus protection. It includes protection against emerging threats like malware, ransomware, phishing, different identity scams. You can protect up to 10 different identities. You can protect your VPN, your cloud backup, and so much more. And this plan, the one that I've got, the WebRoot Total Protection Plan, it includes up to $1 million in fraud expense reimbursement, 24/7 customer service here in the U.S., and an elder fraud hotline for your most vulnerable family members. And this even comes with monitoring for identity fraud, as well as your name popping up on the dark web. And it's an all-in-one product. They have plans for individuals, for families. I definitely recommend you take a look at this stuff. WebRoot gives me a peace of mind, a better digital life, and I want it to do the same thing for you. Get 50% off if you want to check out WebRoot. Go to their website, WebRoot, WEBROOT, webroot.com/rich. Again, that's 50% off the Total Protection Plan or the WebRoot Essentials Plan when you go to webroot.com/rich. And straight ahead, we're going to circle back with Ambassador Carla Sands.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
right. But you're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
We have reasserted that America belongs to the American people, and I encourage all countries to take their own stand in defense of their citizens as well. You have to do that because I see it. I'm not mentioning names. I see it, and I could call every single one of them out. You're destroying your countries. They're being destroyed. Europe is in serious trouble. They've been invaded by a force of illegal aliens like nobody's ever seen before. Illegal aliens are pouring into Europe. Nobody's doing anything to change it, to get them out. It's not sustainable. And because they choose to be politically correct, they're doing just absolutely nothing about it.
That, of course, President Trump speaking at the United Nations General Assembly earlier today, absolutely torching so many people from the UN to European colleagues, harping on the danger and threat that is posed by unchecked illegal immigration all across the globe. And I want to get some reaction to that and some of the other really important topics that President Trump mentioned, including what's happening geopolitically all over the globe. And we're going to do that with former ambassador to Denmark and Greenland, Her Excellency Ambassador Carla Sands, who's also chair now of the Foreign Policy Initiative at the America First Policy Institute. Madam Ambassador, welcome back.
Hey, Rich. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So today, you saw President Trump there giving what I think was, a typical Trump speech, yet with a little added nuance, in my opinion, which is he brought his current foreign policy accomplishments to the table. And I think, unlike the last time where they didn't take him as seriously, I think now they realize Donald Trump is a force to be reckoned with. He is really reclaimed the world stage in a way I think we haven't seen before. Your thoughts?
Yeah, in my lifetime, except for Ronald Reagan, I really didn't see the U.S. leader of the free world stand so strong for what is right and for our freedoms. I'll just give you a quick example. I was at I spoke at a rally, and maybe we can talk about it later, for Iranians that want democracy and many other good things in their country. But before that, after that, I went to a UN event, and the talking points that the speaker was using were all Chinese Communist Party talking points. It was all win-win and being a citizen of the world, talking about UN sustainable goals. All these things are what China would like to do, ushering in global government right out of Beijing. And they have a lot of power at the UN, more than the U.S. does, even though we give a lot more money to the UN and we're a force for good in the world.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I think in years past, when I've seen these things, President Obama, President Clinton, I think there was always, and this is not a slight on you, but there was always such a push or an emphasis on diplomacy, almost like tolerating everything that's going on and not speaking out against anything for fear of ruffling feathers. And that's clearly something President Trump is incapable of, which I'm glad he's not capable of. And I think it's working to our benefit.
100% it is. And when he called out the hundreds of millions of U.S. taxpayer dollars that were given to the UN, that the UN used to bring in illegal aliens into the United States, that pipeline that we saw with the tens of millions that Joe Biden brought in during his presidency, he called that out today too. And the talk about the sovereign borders and protecting culture of each country and not allowing illegal immigrants to come in and change your culture and impose their own laws, that is the key is having sovereignty, sovereign nations. And what the UN is trying to do is break down the sovereignty of nations. And you can see it with the WHO, that, pact that they're trying to get all the nations to sign, where they literally give up their sovereignty.
Stuff.
If there's a pandemic, most countries in the world have signed on that they lose their sovereignty in a pandemic. Well, we know historically we get a pandemic or two every single decade, and the WHO, it mishandles them so badly that back in the early 2000s, they were reformed because of the bad handling of the pandemics in the early 2000s. They have a history of not doing this well. And the guy that's the head of the WHO, Tedros, is literally China's man. And so we have, these international organizations are very dangerous, and President Trump is right to call them out. He said the UN, what purpose is it? They didn't even end any wars. He had to come into office and end 7 wars in 7 months. Where was the UN?
Right. Nowhere to be found. So, Madam Ambassador, do you think that today the participants, their colleagues of President Trump's, if you will, that they took heed to the message that he was sharing, that they're destroying their own nations from within? Or do you think this is them just, kind of putting up like, oh, let me not mess with him because he might put a tariff on us?
Well, he's already putting tariffs
Right.
where they need to be, because we want fair and reciprocal trade, and we've been laying down on the road and letting everybody drive over us. In other words, they had high tariffs on our goods. So our companies and our working people, they've suffered over the decades. He's getting that trade balance in a better, I would say, more reciprocal way. And you saw even today, Jerome Powell said, the tariffs aren't really causing prices to go up. And we don't have inflation in spite of these tariffs. And President Trump is trying to use those tariffs to impose better order in the world rather than go to war. You talked about diplomacy. Well, diplomacy keeps us out of war. Well, so do tariffs, because he's using tariffs to try to change, for instance, to end the Ukraine-Russia war. So what he's doing is he's upending the old-fashioned way of doing things, and he's saying, well, let's think outside the box. How do we get a deal done? And, when you're a deal maker like he is, you look at every option. You don't take things off the table. You don't take anything off the table. You get a deal done. So he's working hard to get that, to end the Ukraine-Russia war. But as far as the other countries' leadership, hearing his speech, so he went to the UN. They turned off the escalator as soon as he and the First Lady stepped on it. And in the UK paper on Sunday, people were talking in the press about turning off the escalators when Trump was there. And they turned off the teleprompter as soon as he stood up to do his speech. That's absolutely unbelievable, and there has to be consequences for those people. And then they turned down his microphone, so many people couldn't hear his speech that were in the room. So there was sabotage at the UN because they do not want the people of the world to hear President Trump's words.
Oh, that's so true. And I failed to mention the escalator not working when he and the First Lady arrived, as well as his teleprompter going down. But he kind of spoke to that, and I'll play a clip of that when we return. Amigos, we're coming back with Ambassador Carla Sands, former ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark. And I want to get her take on what's going on in Europe as well. She's chair of the Foreign Policy Initiative at the America First Policy Institute, and she's coming right back with us. Folks, don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdes.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
These are the two things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much. And by the way, it's working now. It just went on. Thank you. I think I should just do it the other way. It's easier. Thank you very much. I didn't think of it at the time because I was too busy working to save millions of lives. That is the saving and stopping of these wars. But later I realized that the United Nations wasn't there for us. They weren't there. I thought of it really after the fact, not during these negotiations, which were not easy. That being the case, what is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it. It has such tremendous, tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war. The only thing that solves war and wars is action.
President Trump calling for the Europeans to take action, calling for the United Nations to take action, saying they've been absent in these negotiations. And we're discussing the news of the day with Ambassador Carla Sands, former ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark, including Greenland. She's chair of the Foreign Policy Initiative at the America First Policy Institute. And Madam Ambassador, you heard President Trump there quipping about, what the UN hasn't offered, but there's a high dose of reality there, right? There's the reality that he's been, I'm going to say, in many ways, unilaterally brokering peace deals all over the world and using his tariff strategy for the benefit of the American people, but as a tool, as a mechanism to bring about a lot of these peace deals. And it's remarkable to me that Donald Trump and the United States of America have truly been standing in the gap, doing what I believe is the work of the United Nations. Is that wrong?
I think you're wrong, Rich. I think you're correct. It's smart for you to say that. I actually think that President Trump and his muscular diplomacy, using everything he needs to in the toolbox, is actually changing American diplomacy in the future. I think he's changed the paradigm. We're no longer going to be walked over by all these other nations. He is reasserting that the United States is the leader of the free world, and we are not going to let, whether it's Russia or the communists running China, to run the tables on us. He is saying, this is the United States. We are a force for good, and we're going to right the wrongs, and we're going to make sure that there's peace. But just to think he's ended 7 wars in 7 months, it's extraordinary. And he said to the leaders, all of the trade in the EU is done through Brussels. So we said to Brussels, to the leadership there, Ursula von der Leyen, he said, look, we all do 100% tariffs on China. The war in Ukraine by Russia, it ends the next day. Because if China feels pain in trade, they will stop funding the war. Russia can't do this war without China. China is doing so much for Russia in this war. And so I talked to an ambassador this week, and I said, so are you going to impose the 100% tariffs on China and end the war? And you know what he said? We don't think we're going to do that because we think the United States will take advantage and step in. Well, of course not. President Trump's trying to end a war. I mean, they are that's what they would do. They would, even though they're our allies, they don't treat us like a friend quite often. They treat us like an adversary. President Trump talks about that, how, it's nice to have friends, but boy, it'd be nice if they treated you like a friend. Well, we want a good relationship with all countries around the world, but especially our allies. And he really is right that if those 100% tariffs, he's already got them on India, but the deal is you have to put them on China, because the tariffs are to stop China and India from importing Russian oil and gas. Once that stops, when they cannot import it because the tariffs that we're putting on them for importing it on all their goods is going to hurt them so much, they'll stop. China will pick up the phone and tell Putin, knock it off, stop the war, and Putin will withdraw. That's why he was able to say at the UN today, look, maybe we can get 100% of the territory back for Ukraine, because if that much pressure is put on Russia, if China says get back to Russia and get out of those territories, Russia will have to do it. They're basically a vassal state now for China because they are so indebted to China.
Madam Ambassador, we heard President Trump today answer some questions about should NATO shoot down Russian planes if they go in NATO airspace. He said yes. They asked about some Article 5 stuff. He said maybe. And with respect to ending this war, he made comments about that, saying it has to come to an end. How do you foresee things happening with the Russia-Ukraine conflict? And what was your read on how effective today was in getting closer to that?
Well, I think that it's encouraging that he's talking more strongly against Russia, because Russia's been making incursions in U.S. airspace, in NATO airspace. I visited in Estonia. I visited the air patrol there, part of NATO, and Russian planes come into European, NATO territory and U.S. territory. We haven't been shooting down their planes. And when they went to the airport of Denmark this week and shut down, they've sent drones, probably Russia, an adversary, sent drones to the Danish airport. They didn't shoot those drones down. But I think going forward, after those words from President Trump, after consultations with the different countries, my suspicion is that some of these planes are now going to be shot down, and there's precedent for this. But I wanted to tell you what I was doing this morning, if I may, talking to the Iranians. So thousands of Iranians came to the UN today, right in front of the UN, thousands from around the country. And these are, I would say, Iranian patriots. And what they're looking for is democracy and a secular government in Iran. They have a 10-point plan. They're called the NCRI, National Council of Resistance of Iran. They don't want mullahs. They don't want a shah. They want equal rights for women. They want equal justice, equal rights for the Kurds. They want equal rights in employment, peace in the world, like no nuclear weapons. They want freedom of religion, free and fair elections, free justice, so the courts are blind, like in the U.S. And they need the support of the world's democratic leaders, because, they, under Biden, when these freedom fighters were shot, some of them teenagers, in the streets. When I was ambassador, I saw the photos when they tried to rise up. Joe Biden, or was it after I was ambassador? Joe Biden did not stand with the people when they asked for support. So, they're looking for all of the democratic leaders of the world to say, we support you in your fight to have democracy and have equal rights in Iran. I mean, it's been run by the mullahs since I was a teenager, when they, took our hostages, overthrew the Shah, and they invaded our embassy and took hostages for over 400 days. And that's the day that Ronald Reagan was sworn into office is the day that those terrorists released our hostages, our American embassy employees. And so this has been a long fight. But it's a group that is, has a lot of equality, and it's a very positive movement. And I really hope that the governments around the world that talk a good game about democracy and supporting freedom, that they will get behind these people.
Well, that's really encouraging to hear. We've had a member of that group, Ali Reza Jafarzadeh, on our program before, and I think he's scheduled to be on this week. And I've always liked what he's had to say about his future, his vision for the future of Iran. And I think for for that region to really flourish, right? It seems like a lot of people looking for peace and kind of let me do my thing, except for Iran and, of course, what we see coming out of Gaza with Hamas. So
oh my gosh.
It is encouraging news. And that's another conflict. Before I let you go, what's your take on that stuff? Because this seems to be the conflict that doesn't end. Even if there's a ceasefire, even if there's this, even if there's that, something always happens. And it's so discouraging, to say the least.
It is so discouraging. And to see these allies of ours, these Western European countries, come out and say we're going to recognize a Palestinian state when they want to just kill every Israeli, and they're not going to be satisfied until there are no Jews. And it's so perverse to reward terrorists who are holding hostages. I love that President Trump said, we don't want ones or twos, threes. All the hostages have to be released. And he is, in spite of what Netanyahu did, not tipping off the president recently, President Trump is very supportive of the Israelis' right to destroy Hamas, because Hamas, you saw what they did on October 7th. You saw how they continue to say, we want to wipe Israel off the map. We want to kill every Jew. And when they talk about it, they don't say, oh, you know, we're supportive of a two-state solution. No, they want to win, and they want to kill every Jewish person. So it's not a fair fight. President Clinton tried to get a two-state. He offered everything, the world, to Yasser Arafat, and Yasser Arafat turned him down.
Wow. Well, we'll continue to keep this our finger on the pulse, as you are, I'm sure. Ambassador Carla Sands, former ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark and the chair of the Foreign Policy Initiative at America First Policy Institute. Madam Ambassador, if people want to find out some of the work that you're currently have on your desk at America First Policy Institute, what do they do? Where do they go? How do they follow you?
Rich, I love your question. Our foreign policy is so new at AFPI. We don't have our webpage up yet, but you can follow me on Twitter at Carla H. Sands. We'll have the webpage up soon. We're building it out. And AFPI, you know, it's a new organization founded by Brooke Rollins, who's now President Trump's agriculture secretary. And our former chair was Linda McMahon, our former chairman of the board. So we've got a lot of folks in the administration working on behalf of every one of your listeners every day.
Outstanding. Well, keep up the great work. I appreciate it, you joining us tonight and keeping us up to speed. Godspeed to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rich. Take care.
My pleasure. And amigos, your thoughts, your calls, your reactions to President Trump's big speech at the UN, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdes with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdes with an S.
And chaos in the courtroom in Fort Pierce following the verdict for the man tried for attempting to assassinate then presidential candidate Donald Trump. After Ryan Ruth was found guilty on all counts, he tried to take his own life. Here's Christina Vasquez.
And so justice was served.
The president reacting to a federal jury finding Ryan Ruth guilty of trying to kill him last year when the then presidential candidate was golfing at his West Palm Beach course.
There was a scuffle in the courtroom. The court marshals tackled him.
Just as the jury was leaving, John Gross, a member of the public in the courtroom at the time,
He attempted to stab himself in the neck.
Body started to move and jerk. I thought he was having an epileptic fit, but then I realized that he was stabbing himself with what looked like a pen.
And New York Times freelance journalist David Adams.
Across his body with his right arm, like this, into the side of his neck, like 4 or 5 times, quick.
Said U.S. Marshals dragged Ruth out of the courtroom.
I've never seen an outburst like that. I've never seen somebody try and injure themselves after a verdict.
His daughter, Sarah, crying out for him.
Dad, stop. And then she went into a tirade against the court using several profanities.
Wow. Well, you heard that like I did. That's accurate information. Ryan Ruth, R-O-U-T-H. Now, it's funny. This is one of those words. It's like, why isn't it not Ryan Routh, like mouth or south? But it's Ryan Ruth, like couth, like uncouth. Ryan Ruth tried to stab himself as he was found guilty of plotting the Trump assassination attempt at the Florida golf course. And you heard it. He gets found guilty on all charges and starts stabbing himself in the neck. Now, I've got to ask, for you all that are out there in Radioland, how bad could prison be that it's got to be that bad that you want to start jabbing yourself in the neck? Is it because they're going to get you in jail because you think that El Trompito has men on the inside? Is it because what? Why? In front of your own daughter? Now, I guess the answer here is this guy's a mental case. But wow, I didn't see that one coming for sure. I for sure would have, believed. And Ryan Ruth was found dead in his cell tomorrow morning, whatever, that type of story, a Jeffrey Epstein type of thing. But actually seeing it happen in the courtroom and having the courage to stab himself more than once in the neck with a pen. Man, I don't know. I want to get your thoughts and calls on this stuff because this is kind of crazy. But let's go to the phones. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDES. Let me go to Lance. He's in Kalispell, Montana, KOFI. Lance, let me ask you quickly, what do you think about this guy stabbing himself in the neck? Do you think he was afraid of prison? He was afraid of something else? What's your thought?
From what I've heard other commentators take note of is a lot of what is being ascribed to him psychologically is he's an attention seeker. Look at me, doing the most drastic to get, his 15 seconds in the light, I believe.
Wow.
And that would be my personal observation as well.
Yeah. Now, I know you had some questions about one of our guests earlier. What's on your mind there?
Well, I didn't have any questions. I wanted to just make two quick compliments. One, I'm glad baseball season's over. You're back on the radio on a regular basis again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Secondly, I live up here in clear up in northwest middle of nowhere, Montana, so we got a lot of grizzly bears. And I just wanted to make the correlation between your guest, Mr. Ellison, and you ever watch video of a grizzly bear slapping the snot out of something? That was pretty much what he was bringing to the left this evening, and I was just pleased to hear it, and to know that there are people, this man and others that, saddened as we are by the loss of Charlie Kirk, I believe we've all been given new marching orders. It's time to step up and, I don't want to say lash out, but like you were saying, right? Christ had a problem with the Sadducees and Pharisees, and we should too.
Yeah, he had a problem with sin. I hear you. I think you're spot on, brother. And I thank you for the call and for the comment. Lance in Kalispell, Montana, KOFI. Folks, the rest of your calls and more when we return. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, to the phones we go. Let's go to Carol calling us from Ottumwa, Iowa, KBIZ. Carol, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdes. Welcome.
Yes, I just wanted to say I went to 2 services Sunday, but I couldn't wait to get home to see the service for Charlie Kirk. It was unreal, unbelievable. It's an experience I will never forget, and I commend Vance and all those speakers. They did a wonderful job. And Erika, she was on it for a half hour. And I just can't believe the speech she gave to her husband. And I'm praying for her and her family all the time. And I'm just so glad that I'm a Christian. And he told nothing but the truth. And we need a lot of the truth right now. Our country's in a bad way. Thanks to Trump, he's trying to get it straightened. And he's doing a good job.
Well, thank you for saying that, Carol, because I think, you're right. I think a lot of people felt the same way. And more importantly, I think it's not just it was a great speech. I think it was really charting the course, not just for Turning Point USA, but for so many people who follow that movement. And if there's one thing we learned from all of this is how big, how strong, how influential and impactful the Turning Point movement and Charlie Kirk's legacy really, really was and is. And as it was stated at the memorial, they tried to kill him. They've unleashed a sleeping giant. Thank you, Carol. Godspeed to you. Amigos, we continue our conversation straight ahead. More to come. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdes.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. Welcome to another hour of our program, 7 minutes past the top of the hour this Tuesday evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. A blessing to be here. Here's the phone number if you want to join us, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDES. If you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, I encourage you to do it. I'm going to be getting a lot of your reaction. We've had a number of callers tonight, and I always feel like I never have enough time for all of the callers. And that's my soft spot, is I love to talk to the listeners. So 833-482-5337. I will add an extra segment of calls tonight just to make sure we get to everybody, because I know people want to weigh in on Charlie Kirk. They want to weigh in on the UN issue with President Trump, as well as lots of other news that's going on, including this. The person that tried to kill President Trump in Florida, Ryan Ruth, he was sentenced today, or actually he was found guilty on all charges today. And as he got this announcement, he starts stabbing himself in the neck with a pen. He did this in front of his own daughter. She was calling out for him to stop. And President Trump weighed in on this, giving his reaction to it. We've got number 14. Listen to this.
I'm very appreciative of the justice that was given and the way it was handled by Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche and everybody that it's been, and their team of people. It was really well handled, and it's very important. You can't let things like that happen. Nothing to do with me, but a president or even a person. You can't allow that to happen. And so justice was served, and we'll see what happens. But I very much appreciate the judge and jury and everybody on that. It was so professionally handled, and it's a great honor.
Again, that's President Trump at the UN today, responding to reporters' questions about the sentencing, or the outcome, of this case. And other news today, que mala eres. That means how bad you are in Spanish. Que mala eres, the Vice President of the United States. She was on The View, and she had a lot to say today regarding President Trump's UN speech and visit and whatnot. Listen to this, cut number 15.
This person and what we just saw in terms of a presentation at the United Nations, I talk about it. I talked about, remember in the debate?
Yeah.
They laughed at him the last time he was in front of the UN.
Yeah, this time
you remember just about, I don't know, several weeks ago, that meeting with Xi and Kim Jong-un and Putin? Yeah. You think they're not laughing?
Oh, they are.
Here, hold on, que mala eres. Do you think that America's not laughing at you? Right? You and your 107 days, you and this campaign coming on The View right now, trying to throw shots at Trump. Do you think it's not lost on people that you lost? You think it's not lost on people that you offered nothing for the American people except to make things worse? And now you're going to say that they're laughing at Trump. In the 4 years that you were vice president, Madam Vice President, que mala eres, did you end 7 wars? Did you bring in a record number of tariffs to the Treasury? Did you, bring down the trade deficit by 50%? I mean, there's a number of things that President Trump has done here that the only thing I can say Kamala Harris did effectively as vice president, when she's, in particular, her role as border czar, was a horrible job at the border. I mean, an absolute horrible job. And I'm going to say a pretty miserable job in her campaign as well. Picking Tim Walz. Tim Walz was a horrible running mate. Horrible running mate. She might have done better if she picked somebody else. But he was horrible. So it was Kim Malaeres and Don Rickles, 2024. Come on. Could you have picked a worse team? Anyway, continue.
As they create a new axis of partnership. What's happening? You bring people into the Oval Office. I have spent
Hold on. A new axis of partnership. Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un, and Vladimir Putin. These three dictators have been friends as long as I've been around, right? Even to when it was Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un's father. Wasn't like they had beef. I mean, what is she talking about? She shows so much of what she doesn't know by saying that they're creating a new axis of partnership. These people have been attached at the hip for as long as I can remember. When Russia runs into a problem, who does he call? Korea, China. That's not a new thing. That's an ongoing thing. Go ahead.
A lot of time in the Oval Office. I have spent time in the Oval Office with the president, receiving our allies and our friends from around the world. And consistently, we have seen Donald Trump bring people into the Oval Office, be they a United States governor or the head of a state of a friendly nation, and embarrass them and ridicule and demean them.
Cyril Ramaphosa, the head of state from South Africa, are they necessarily a friendly nation? Isn't South Africa the S in BRICS, right? BRICS? Aren't they actively threatening the dollar? Aren't they trying to replace the United States dollar as the world reserve currency? So to say that he brought a head of state into the Oval Office and embarrassed him, which I agree, President Trump did that. It was embarrassing for that man to sit there and watch that video of kill the Boer, and the communists from his country shouting that chant, and him seemingly not understand what was going on. It made him look like he didn't understand what was happening in his own country. So that was embarrassing for him. But I would not go as far as saying that they are a friendly nation when they're actively trying to attack the United States dollar. Come on, Kemalitis. Let's continue.
That is not what a president does. This individual who occupies our White House right now,
The People's House,
has decided that he will be an emperor in his mind who will demonstrate his power by demeaning and belittling and making people feel small.
You know, it's such a fancy, flowery, fluffy world that Vice President Kamala Harris lives in, because Kamala, if I can call you that, I have to say, this is just fantasy land, right? She says he fancies himself an emperor in his mind. Who cares what he fancies himself? Number one, I don't think that's the case. And number two, we have something called a constitution. We have a separation of powers. We have 3 branches of government. Did she forget all of that, or did she just never know it in the first place? It doesn't matter how you fancy yourself. There are guardrails in place in the United States government. They've always been there, and they didn't just stop existing with President Trump. No matter how many times the Democrats want to say that Trump is a threat to democracy, this, that, and the third, the only real threat to democracy we've ever seen is the language that these people use. It's absolutely horrendous. But hey, free speech, right? You say what you got to say, I'll say what I got to say. Straight ahead, I want to get into what's going on with the continued indoctrination of children across America, what's happening in the school choice movement. Education is always a hot-button topic on this program, and we're going to do that with Erika Donalds straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdes keeping you company live and national in the evening hours. 833-482-5337 if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation. And Randi Weingarten is back. She's rearing her beautiful head, talking about fascism, now projecting her own fascism onto President Trump. This is pretty interesting stuff that's going on. The American Federation of Teachers, the AFT, the largest, one of the largest teachers unions in America, is pushing her new book, Why Fascists Fear Teachers. Of course, she's making the case that there is an authoritarian threat facing the country, and she's fending it off by fighting the Trump administration. And this is an interesting thing, all right? She said, I got a quote from her saying, a public with strong critical thinking muscles is more likely to strengthen democracy and resist authoritarianism. Of course, making it seem like the AFT and its teachers unions are sort of building up strong young minds. That's according to the New York Post. And I want to get some reaction to this book, right? This work, I'm going to say a work of fiction, by Randi Weingarten, with the title, Why Fascists Fear Teachers, from Erika Donalds. Erika Donalds, also with AFPI, chair of the Educational Opportunity Center there, and she's with us now. Erika Donalds, welcome back.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Rich. Appreciate it.
You bet. My pleasure. And I want to get into this because few things make me as happy as exposing Randi Weingarten, because I feel like she's got so many people misled. And while even people on the left I've met, in recent years saying, well, she's like a real commie. They go, yeah, she is. Even they agree with me when I say stuff like that. So it's just amazing that there are still people that take her seriously. But talk to me about your reaction to this book, and why does she have all this influence?
Well, it's infuriating that her book is actually referring to parents. When she's saying why fascists fear teachers, she's referring to parents questioning what's happening in their children's classrooms. And It's unfortunate, of course, that she's using that language and promoting this book, continuing to promote it after that word fascist being carved into a bullet for conservatives, and yet she has no thought of rolling that back. We were called domestic terrorists by the Biden administration. Now we're being called fascists by the leader of the largest teachers union, when she is actually acting in such an authoritarian manner, not wanting parents to have this information about what's going on in their children's classrooms.
Really, really crazy stuff. Now, I can't, honestly, I read this title and I thought, oh, why fascists fear teachers? Oh, she's got to be talking about Trump. But now that you've explained it to me, it makes all the sense in the world. It's plural, right? It's not why that fascist fears teachers. It's why fascists. And this is, again, this was an opinion that was, I think, widely shared by the previous administration when they labeled parents as domestic terrorists, violent domestic extremists. They had the Department of Homeland Security following moms around in Virginia after appearing at school board meetings and pushing back. All of this, to me, is the type of stuff we should be afraid of. We had congressional hearings today on a separate topic, but same vein, where we found out that Google says, we were spying on behalf of the Biden administration. And I don't know. It's like there's a collective non-batting of eyes across America. I suspected it. Most of the listeners suspected that. We knew it to be true, but I never thought we'd hear this vindication. Yet here it is, and it's kind of like, and what is going on in America, Erika Donalds?
Well, it's exactly why we need education freedom for every family in the country, because people like Randi Weingarten think that they own your children and that you as a parent do not have the right to question how and where your child is educated. More and more families are not trusting the public school system because it doesn't align with their values, and they want an option outside of that. It's why I'm traveling the country helping to promote school choice, education freedom, because we need to have other options outside of the government-controlled public schools and the union-controlled public schools.
So let's talk about those options. Let's unpack it. Obviously, there's vouchers, there's charters, there's a bunch of different ones. What types of options are you presenting to the people that'll listen, and how do you recommend people get involved?
Well, even if your state doesn't have school choice, the one big beautiful bill that was just signed by President Trump had the largest expansion of school choice in the history of the country, with a federal tax credit scholarship program that's going to go into effect in 2027. Individuals can get a dollar-for-dollar tax credit, donate to scholarship funding organizations. Those organizations can turn around and use those funds to give scholarships all over the country if governors opt in. So that's a big one. We've got to work on that over the next year. But when we have purchasing power as parents, more and more private schools are going to open up, micro schools, hybrid schools, and other innovative options are going to come about around the country like we've seen in school choice states.
That's great news. Listen, I think that we need to do whatever we can to empower parents in the best way possible so that they can make the choices they want. And I think, lamentably, too many parents feel like they just have to follow the status quo because Randi Weingarten, AFT, and so much of the establishment, and I'm going to say the power structure that surrounds parents in public education, kind of tells them that. What do you, if you had to give, parents that are listening a piece of advice, what would it be?
Well, I would say you don't have to go with the status quo. I think you're right that parents have just accepted this is the way it is because this is the way it's always been. I have to send my child to the neighborhood school that they're assigned. There are options in many states, charter schools, homeschooling, online schools. But even then, parents have to take that agency, take that responsibility. It is up to you how your child learns, where your child learns, and what kind of values are being taught to your child every day. And don't give up and don't give in if you're not satisfied with what the public school is offering. Get whatever options you possibly can and get the very best education option for your child.
I think that's good advice. Now, what are some of the pitfalls, the things that we need to kind of warn parents to look out for? Because clearly there's a lot of things out there, and I know there's a lot of parents that might be discouraged when they say, you know what, I saw those parents standing up in Loudoun County, Virginia for their kids, and they ended up getting followed by Homeland Security. One of them got locked up. What should parents be leery of?
Well, I think one of the themes over the last couple of weeks, as we've seen this heinous attack on Charlie Kirk, that some of the reaction is to cower in fear and say, wow, we can't speak up because it puts us in danger. But what we saw as a recurring theme in the beautiful service on Sunday was that we will not back down. We will not cower. And we are going to stand even stronger and louder together for what we believe in. And I think this is even more true when it comes to our children, because what we are seeing in the culture today is a direct result of what has been taught in schools for the past several decades. This what I would call absolutely indoctrination into left-wing ideology taken to the extreme that allows for violence in response to speech that we don't like. We have to set the example as parents that we are not going to back down. We are going to speak up because that is what America is about.
Erika Donalds, America First Policy Institute's Chair of Educational Opportunity. I want you to stand by. President Reagan often said we need to be informed patriots. So I want to talk about civics education and the importance of that when we return. Folks, we're coming right back with Erika Donalds. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdes.
Your impact is really big. Honored to be here.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdes keeping you company this evening. And I want to bring back our guest, Erika Donalds. I met her at the America First Policy Institute inaugural event in Washington, D.C. She was there with her husband, and we had a lot of good conversations about a number of topics. And the topic tonight is education. and in particular, civics education. And I think it's important that we talk about civic education because we have too many uninformed Americans. I want you to hear this quick clip regarding the 250th celebration of America 250, and some comments from Education Secretary Linda McMahon.
Education Secretary Linda McMahon on Wednesday launched a major program for our nation's students. It calls for renewing patriotism, strengthening civic knowledge, and advancing a shared understanding of America's founding principles in schools across the nation. Secretary McMahon announced that the America 250 Civics Education Coalition would be a partnership with the America First Policy Institute, Turning Point USA, and 38 other organizations.
They're assembling this group of nearly 40 organizations dedicated to strengthening civic education across our nation that will help support the department with our incredible America 250 commemorative events throughout the next year.
The program will include over 100 events nationwide, including a tour of all 50 states, student history competitions, and college lectures.
So this is the focus, right? America 250, and it's about celebrating America's 250th birthday. However, more importantly, we're talking about civics education and the Civic Education Coalition that's being put together here. Erika Donalds is the chair of Education Opportunity at AFPI, and she's with us. Erika, tell us about America 250 and the Civic Education Coalition.
Well, I'm proud to also have been asked to co-chair this America 250 Civics Education
wonderful.
Coalition.
I wasn't given that information,
partnership.
so I'm happy to hear that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, awesome with, of course, Secretary McMahon, the Department of Education. And it's a great initiative because we need, what could be more important in celebrating our 250th than to make sure that the children of our next generation know how to defend this republic for the next 250 years and carry on this great American legacy of our founding fathers. It's promoting patriotic education, it's promoting civic literacy, and it's giving states the tools that they need to put into policy to make sure that those are longstanding, tenets of each state's success and the success of our country.
What does that look like for in reality, right? When you put it out there, how are we going to get that message out, and how do we really reach people, adults, children, everyone that needs to be reached in this kind of continuum to make sure that we're not losing, like we have been the last 4 years, so much of our rich American tradition?
Well, it's important that our students learn the founding documents. There's so many students do not get to read the Constitution, the Federalist Papers, the Declaration of Independence. They don't understand the foundation of our country. They don't understand the Bill of Rights. As I mentioned in the previous segment, you have students who think that violence in response to speech that they don't like is okay. And that means that they have not been taught about our Bill of Rights and our Constitution and the founding of America. And so we need to make sure that civics is being taught every day in every grade. We need a citizenship test for high school graduation to ensure that these students actually understand how our government works. And we need to make sure that school districts are choosing from high quality civics education curriculum and being taught the true history of our nation.
Now, I know it sounds like a silly question, but you made a very good point here. And I think it should go without saying that, of course, we should have a better understanding of civics education so that we don't resort to violence. But it's not an accident, in my opinion, right, Erika Donalds? I think that there's an active push to push people away from the faith-based roots of our country, to push people away from just even the teachings. Right? Madison taught about how we need to be a virtuous people, and otherwise this republic that we have, the constitutional system we have, wouldn't work. And it seems like the most radical elements on the left are pushing us further and further away from virtue, morality, godliness, so that their version of what they want America to be can come to be. And it seems like an existential battle, because I think it is one. But I'm wondering, to what end? How do we put an end to that?
Well, there are some incredible civics education programs in the United States and up and coming. PragerU is a great organization. One of our partners in this in this coalition has created some great curriculum that's being used in many schools now around the country. Hillsdale College has a wonderful curriculum that's available for free. Many more are coming up that are saying we are ready to step up and put some high-quality curriculum and resources in place. This initiative also includes some teacher training and some teacher events to help equip them with the resources that they need to teach the Constitution and the founding documents of our country. I think that there is an uprising of those of us who realize that we are in a crisis in civic education, civic literacy in this country, and we are the ones who will have to do something about it to make sure that this next generation is prepared.
Well, I think that's as good a call to action as any. Erika Donalds, people are listening and saying, I like what she's talking about. How do they, engage with AFPI and your Center for Education Opportunities? How do they follow you and keep up to speed with all of the great work you're doing? And how do they engage with this program that you're co-chairing for America 250?
Yeah, thank you. AmericaFirstPolicy.com is where you can find all of our work around education, school choice, and including a link to the website for this America 250 Civics Education Initiative. And follow me at Erika Donalds. Erika Donalds, all social media. I'm always posting on there to keep you informed on the things that are going on around our country, as well as to show you how to get involved, continue to advocate for yourself and for our nation and for the future of our children.
Outstanding work. Godspeed to you. It's a noble mission, an important one, and I'm glad you're the person that's leading the charge. Erika Donalds, thank you for being here. Godspeed.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You bet. And amigos, we come back with your thoughts, your phone calls, your reactions, and so much more to this and everything else that's going on in America at night. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdes.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America, and you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdes, open phones across America, a time-honored tradition here on this program. We get to make radio magic together this evening, and I want to go to Alan. He's in Alexandria, Virginia, WMAL. Go right ahead, Alan. You're on with Rich Valdes.
Thank you for taking the call, Rich. I think that the Mr. Ralph or Ruth or ever how he pronounces his name, it's been theatrics from the very beginning. They say that, like, if you represent yourself, you have a fool for a client. I think that was planned. And then his defense, when you look at his defense, my friends say I'm not that bad, must not be that bad. It was all so lame to begin with. And then when he's trying to stab himself in the neck with a pen, he could have easily taped a ceramic blade to himself. He could have gotten through security, and then he could have done the job properly. And then his daughter is saying, I'm going, you know what I'm saying? She said, oh, I'm going to appeal, et cetera. So I think that the plan from the very beginning
was a show.
To appeal it, and then plead not guilty by reason of insanity. You know?
Could be. I don't know. I'm not sure how that goes. I just think, man, what a length he went through to try and achieve that goal, and I don't think he's going to get it. Personally, this is one of those things where I think even the people that don't like Trump they're not going to be taking to this guy's defense. Just my thought. Alan in Alexandria, Virginia on WMAL. Thank you, sir. Let us continue. I want to go to Springfield, Illinois, WTAX. Checking in with Tim. Tim, go right ahead, sir. Tim, line 3. Let's lock him in and put him on the board. Thank you. Go right ahead.
Hi, hello.
Yes.
Oh, C.S. Lewis. I wanted to ask you, are you familiar with his works?
Yes, Clive Staples Lewis. Love him.
Oh, great. Then you could probably talk on the screw tape letters a little bit. I think it's important for people to be able to kind of understand a little bit better. And that's one book. It was very difficult for him to write. I think he said that he had to go to a pretty dark place to come up with the character.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a story. I used to work for a 4-year evangelical college in New Jersey, and the president of the college was friends with an actor named Max McLean. He used to do these radio ads when I had first gotten into radio. I was just doing voiced ads myself before I had a show or anything like that. And he would promote the Bible, and he had read the Bible in this, his dramatic voice, and he would say, "Listen to the Bible; it's great for the soul." And he had a great voice, sounded like Sebastian Gorka, honestly. Another one with a great voice, and he's scheduled to be on this week, by the way. But Max McLean put on a Broadway production of the Screw Tape Letters, and this battle between the two characters, right? Obviously, Screw Tape and Wormwood, and it's this. Kind of what I think you're alluding to, this battle between good and evil that we go through for our soul. And it is fascinating how the temptation comes into it, and really just quite a production that he put on. And, of course, the book, equally as good, in my opinion.
Yes,
Tim.
And the way he had prayed behind, don't pray behind the cross. Pray to that cross on the wall, but don't pray behind it.
Yeah, really a great production from what I can remember. And if it's ever back on Broadway or wherever it is in the country, I recommend you take a look at it. I think that they're still on the road, and he's got some other ones that he does. But excellent book by C.S. Lewis, excellent play by Max McLean. And Tim, great call from you in Springfield, Illinois, WTAX. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. We're going to take a pause right here. Coming right back. The rest of your calls and more. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And let's go to Jerome, calling us from Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA. Jerome, go right ahead, brother.
Hey, they're not putting Kimmel on here tonight. I'm going to miss him. I'm not surprised. Oh, by the way, how come you didn't tell me Robert Kennedy Jr. was a drug addict for 14 years, and they confirmed that guy to be the HHS secretary?
Well, hold on a second. I had Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on this program, and he talked about it right here on the air.
I don't remember hearing about that.
Well, you missed that night. But, yeah, he definitely talked about it. He talked about how his faith was important to him, and that's how he got through that.
Years. And he's like the head of HHS. What kind of calamity is that?
I think they call that the American dream. Right? Would you be saying that if they made Hunter Biden the HHS secretary?
They would never make Hunter Biden no such thing.
Thank God.
No, stop it.
Now, I know you didn't call here to beat up RFK Jr. because he's a Kennedy, and you love the Kennedys. So what'd you really call for, Jerome?
Anyway, they think he's crazy. That was a horrible speech at the UN today. That was a horrible speech.
Tell me why. What didn't you like about El Trompito's speech tonight?
What did he say? We're all going to hell? We're all the countries are going to hell. They're in bad shape. Well, what's he talking about, man? What kind of optimism is that?
Hold on, let me explain. I think he's talking about the fact that there are a ridiculously increased number of knife attacks and vehicular homicide attacks where people are running people over, and there is actually a common theme here. A lot of these people are coming from North African Muslim countries, and these are like war-torn areas. And when they come to the UK or whatever country they go to, they end up bringing this type of violence with them, and this is what he's talking about.
I heard what you said about Jasmine Crockett. You called her low rent, huh? Yeah, and then you said
I said her argument was low rent. You know me. I think she's a cutie with a big attitude.
too brown, huh? Oh, yeah?
She's a pretty lady.
America's getting too brown. That's what you said, huh? What kind of crack is that?
I've got no problem with brown. No racism here. Jerome, I got to hit a break, brother. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Thanks for your civility. Amigos, we're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And I just wanted to share something. I've had this on my desk, and I wanted to get it, share it with you guys. But it was a funny story about a woman. It's funny to me. Maybe it's shocking to others. But in the relationship section of the New York Post, a piece by Marisa Matozzo, this is very interesting. It talks about this woman who takes a 3-week business trip. She invites her husband. He says, "No, I don't want to come." And she leaves. And she comes back and she says, he's an adult. He'll be fine, I thought. No, he wasn't fine. Turns out he made a huge disaster in the house. 41-year-old man decided to become a grill master, but they don't have a grill. So he stacked baking sheets, dousing them in lighter fluid, and triggered the smoke alarms for 40 minutes. The oven, she said, still smells like gasoline. He wasn't trying to burn the place down. He was actually trying to cook something that way. For meals, he was making frozen burritos, and he didn't cook them well, so he would only eat like half. She asked him, why didn't he cook it more in the microwave? And he was like, oh, it's like eating a cold wrap, and it saves electricity if you cook it only halfway. I mean, just bizarre stuff that was going on. Anyway, amigos, I want to know tomorrow, maybe you could weigh in on that. Let me know if you've ever left your spouse alone and came back to an absolute disaster. I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, you know what to do. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdes.